at the onset of the rainy season, expected to commence in February in the south and June in the northern part of the country.
And cessation in the far north is predicted to be in late September, while it will rain up to December in the Niger Delta region, NIMET says.
Farmers who intend to grow crops in the 2020 wet season now, of course, know the kind of seedlings to use, as the rains are predicted to last some 110 to 160 days in the north and from 210 to about 280 days in the southern part of the country.
NIMET also says the amount of rainfall in Nigeria in 2020 will range from 400 millimeters in the north to 3,000 millimeters in the south.
Well, we're not going to preempt what all of this would mean in terms of having the implications fully discussed, because we have our panel to do justice to that in the course of our conversation segment.
Exactly, Kingsley. We're set for an interesting discussion this morning as we seek to know how the 2020 seasonal rainfall will be. What are the features of this season? What is new? Why is it happening? How will that affect the polity and economy? What should the people do? When should they do it and how?
As we indicated, we'll have our guests when we get into our conversation segment, and that will be, of course, after the other segments that we normally would have in the news, business, newspaper review. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and it's on that note I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. We're broadcasting live on the network service of Africa's largest television network, the Nigerian Television Authority. And
I am Juma Yusuf. On the news this morning is Musbao Dan Wahab. Good morning, Musbao.
It's a very good morning, Jumai. Let's take the news, and we'll begin with security, as experts have advocated collective security approach in the country to facilitate peaceful coexistence. This was said during the maiden edition of the North Central Nigeria Police Regional Security Summit in Lafia, Nasarawa State, where strengthening community policing to rid the zone of criminality dominated discussion.
Ideas on the security issues concerning the region. This summit will in no doubt provide us with an ample opportunity in the zone to share experiences, appraise and recommend appropriate measures on the security situation for the country.
This whole process should be all-inclusive to involve everyone.
From the National Assembly, for the second week running, the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating alleged non-remittance of unspent budget funds between 2009 and 2019 has been engaging ministries, departments and agencies of government. The Parliament want to know how 1 trillion naira could not be accounted for over the last 10 years.
It is with the MDAs, ministries and departments.
We make sure that we touch every part of this country in our project, and we touch on skill acquisition.
Other projects have been completed. It is only one project now that is outstanding, and that project has been ongoing since 2012.
The Nigerian Air Force has continued its local content drive with the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, inspecting facilities of the 407 Air Combat Training Group, Kenji. The Chief of Air Staff tested Alpha Jet engine after undergoing the periodic maintenance of the center, which has become a strategic hub for training of NAV technicians for the maintenance of air assets.
To go, they have fixed it, it's good to go, and we are going to mount it on our aircraft. This additional value has made it possible for us to now look at other engines in order to see how we can reactivate them and bring them back into flying status.
Religious matters. The Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace wants the federal government to establish a Ministry of Dialogue and Reconciliation to build on the gains recorded in fostering a country free from religious crisis. This is one of the fallouts of the forum's third annual General Assembly and Peace Conference held in Abuja.
For the rich Muslims and the rich Christians to get together as friends and then divide the poor Muslims and the poor Christians so that they can continue to migrate.
The problem of religious practice in Nigeria, we must admit, is the failure of genuine acceptance and mutual respect by the adherents of our two main religions.
We have partnered with the African Union, creating a unique advisory mechanism for religious leaders to voice their concerns and opinion about priorities of the African Union policymakers.
Sadly, 16 people have been reported to have died and 84 others on admission of the Infection Control Center of the Federal Medical Center Owo following an outbreak of new cases of Lassa fever in Ondo State.
So far, we are following up 671 contacts, and we are not able to follow up all of them. This 671 contacts is contacts of less than half. Just about half of the 84 cases.
You have a duty to keep your environment clean. Your dump sites now should not be within the city. Try and find a way to move it further away.
Now, related development, the outbreak of Lassa fever has claimed the lives of 2 doctors and a patient at the Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, Kano. Consequently, the state government has intensified efforts to contain the disease by keeping about 300 people suspected to be infected by the virus under quarantine in isolation center.
To ensure all the persons there were in close contact with one index case, that is the woman that died, and the health care workers, all their contacts are traced and then followed up to ensure that they don't develop any sign of symptoms of this disease.
And similarly, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, has advised the passengers and other airport users to comply with all quarantine procedures at the nation's airports in an effort to protect passengers from the coronavirus epidemic ravaging some countries and to prevent the spread of such communicable diseases into Nigeria. The coronavirus, which broke out in China and has since killed 6 people, with more than 300 others reported to have been infected, is highly communicable and has already spread to neighboring Japan, Thailand and South Korea. FAN says all the equipment and personnel used in combating the deadly Ebola virus in 2014 are still very much in place at the airport. That's the news beat this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. The program will continue on discussions on the seasonal outlook of the season 2020 with Kingsley and Jumai after the break.
20 years of travel and counting. 20 years of promoting tourism in Africa and diaspora. Over 3 million kilometers traveled. Over 30 African countries visited. Explored the diaspora in 4 continents. Connected over 100,000 happy tourists to Africa. Reached over 50 million homes. Igniting smiles across Africa and beyond. As Gogi Africa turns 20, we thank you and invite you to join us in the quest for 20 must-visit destinations in partnership with the largest TV network in Africa, the NTA, Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Transportation, Lagos State Government, Canon, Delta Airlines, Royal Caribbean, Tour Brokers International. You too can still be a partner. Call the numbers on your screen or info@gogeafrica.tv. Goge Africa, celebrating 2 decades of heritage, travel and tourism.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures. Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down. Do you have a job where you're going to? No, but someone is arranging, Listen, Alinko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
This year, the weather conditions, Harmattan in Nigeria, is harsh. With temperature dropping very low in some parts of the country, many underprivileged children are exposed to these harsh weather conditions, putting them at risk to all sorts of respiratory infections with devastating consequences. We request well-meaning Nigerians to kindly donate warm clothing, blankets, beverages, soap, moisturizers, and other essential items for the benefit of these children. Get involved to support displaced and underprivileged children exposed to these harsh weather conditions. Powered by Aisha Buhari Foundation.
My name's Mr. Muftau Abiodun Balogun. We started this business 4 years ago, and this is the production outlet where we do about 4,000 to 5,000 birds per day. With the closure of the border recently, we've been experiencing massive surge in demand. Our sales per day now is going to be between 15 to 20,000 birds. We needed to expand all avenues because of the multiplier effect it's creating. And the most interesting thing about this closure is that many of my farmers today are farmers we recruited recently, and they are young graduates. What the government is doing will lead us right. And I can tell you, if the government sustains this thing, sky will not even be our limit.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the NTA. Now, time for us to take some business stories. With the latitude availed airlines by the Open Skies Agreement said to be taking a toll on Nigeria's indigenous aviation sector. Plus other stories, here is our correspondent, Kolo Muhammad.
Good to have you along. For national, continental and global integration, the aviation sector plays a key role. Humans, goods and services arrive different parts of the hemisphere via airports, and this promotes social, economic and cultural integration. With fresh equipment installed at different airports across the country, airlines are expected to upward review operations and service to passengers. Then, the Open Skies Agreement, which allows foreign airlines to enter national airspaces in countless numbers, countless destinations, seats and fares, is taking a toll on the Nigerian aviation sector. Indigenous airlines have had to deal with competition from foreign airlines, even on indigenous routes, and this is making indigenous airlines chisel down the size of their fleet. This also affects the expected gains and generally downsizing the grid of operations. Some say indigenous airlines are too much in a hurry to cover foreign routes.
Increase our fleet of aircraft and then consolidate on what we are doing currently and then gradually look outside the shores of Nigeria.
While some blame the issue on Open Skies Agreement.
Open Sky permits you to land any part of the country you wish. That's what gives them the advantage. We don't have that strength to even operate one point into their country, but then they have the muscle, they have the capability of coming into our country and land in Abuja, land in Port Harcourt, land in Lagos, land in Kano, Enugu, all these ones.
To crystallize this argument, NTA Business News spoke with an aviation analyst.
I understand that some were hired under the cloak of the Open Skies Agreement, and there again I said to you, we are expected as a nation to domesticate any agreements that we go internationally. When nations meet in United Nations and they roll out whatever, when nations meet in International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, they roll out, but they make it clear to all nations, you know your special circumstance back home. Take this piece of legislation, go home, domesticate it, and make it work for you. No one is imposing anything on any nation. It's a guideline. It is a guideline. They say to you, this is what the international community would desire that we do. But then, if you feel that in that sector you are oppressed, what you do is what President Trump of America has told the world: America first. And so you expect somebody here to say Nigeria first.
The firewall of Nigeria's indigenous aviation sector needs to be sharpened, even though no stakeholder, foreign or indigenous, should be left worse off in the aviation business. And the third day of trading on the floor of the Nigeria stock market returned negative sentiment. Let's now let you see where activities placed market indices for Wednesday. Thanks for having you along. I am Kolo Muhammad in Abuja. Be with you again soon.
Thank you, Kolo Muhammad, for the Business News Package. Newspaper review is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atobe, is right here with us in the studios for today's session. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Jume.
Good morning,
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. And the lead story is on Lassa fever. The headline says, Lassa fever death toll rises, with 2 riders spread to Enugu, Delta, Bauchi, and others, and hundreds on watch list. And you can see the illustration there on the front page of the paper. The map on the front page shows the states that have been most impacted. Confirmed cases from the 1st of January this year, that's in the past 3 weeks: Ondo 89, Edo 18, Ebonyi 5, wow. Taraba 5, Plateau 2, Bauchi 1, Ogun 1. Total reported number of cases 121. And of course, you also have a comparison there with what happened last year. Suspected cases 172 in 2019. This year 292. Confirmed cases 60 last year. This year 64. Number of deaths 10 last year 2019. This year 21 already. And the signs and symptoms are also indicated there as part of the illustration: fever, headache, sore throat, body weakness, cough, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. And the time between an infection and appearance of the symptoms of the disease is usually between 3 and 21 days, according to the infographics that we have on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And then right at the foot of the front page, before we go back again to below the nameplate, Professor Kabir Bala emerges ABU Vice Chancellor. That's page 44. SPDC's force majeure on Bonin Light threatens 2020 oil revenue target, and terrorists kill 8 soldiers in Borno. Details on page 6. Now, below the nameplate and above the lead story, State of the Nation. We are being cowed into silence. That's according to the Sultan. Amotekun, Afenifere accuses Tinubu of doublespeak. Page 7. Why Kano PDP chair dumped Kwankwanso for APC and Ganduje.
Quite interesting stories there. And from the Leadership newspaper, just below the masthead, Kabiru Bala emerges new ABU Vice Chancellor. And you find that story on page 3. And no verification, no payment. NDDC warns contractors. You find that story on page 11. And the bold headlines there, coronavirus, federal government intensifies checks at nation's airports, with riders cautions against contact with 6 persons, animals. China issues travel advisory on Wuhan, and US confirms 1 case as World Health Organization holds emergency meeting. Amotekun, Tinubu calls for dialogue. You find that story on page 4. And the picture story there, during the 3rd Annual General Assembly and Peace Conference of Interfaith Dialogue in Abuja yesterday, we see the chaplain of Aso Villa Chapel, Pastor Sheyi Malomo, Bishop of Sokoto Catholic Diocese, Most Reverend Hassan Kuka, Emir of Kano Muhammadu Sanusi II, and Executive Director Nigeria Interfaith Action Association, Bishop Sunday Onoha. And just at the bottom plate of the leadership newspaper, Malabo, non-service of court processes stalls Adoke's trial. That story is on page 6. Jungle justice, 4 robbery suspects set ablaze in Akwa Ibom. You find that story on page 9. I won't negotiate with bandits, says Kogi Governor Yahya Bello. Lassa fever, 16 killed, 45 infected in Ondo State. You find that story on page 2.
Let's start with the Lassa fever you just read now. Yes, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has alerted the citizens of Ondo State, particularly traditional rulers, farmers, market women, and volunteers, to join health workers in the serious sensitization against Lassa fever. As at the last count, the governor says there were about 16 deaths and 45 persons infected. But the good thing is that the government has directed local government chairman in the state to acquire lands distant from cities where they can dump refuse dumps. The deck toll has reached Ebonyi. There is reports also in Abia. And consequently, because the harmattan season is usually the heightened period for Lassa fever, this year's outbreak, particularly in late 2019 that started from Bauchi, has spread now to several states. And so there is bold initiative to try and contain it. Meanwhile, checks have been intensified also at the nation's airport. This is to forestall any intrusion about what has been described as a coronavirus that has killed about, at the last count, 6 persons in Wuhan province of China. The Airports Authority and the federal health agencies are all at alert with facilities at the airport, and they are critically checking about visitors into the country. The Ahmadu Bello University Zaria has a new vice-chancellor in the person of Professor Kabiru Bala, a professor of building and construction management. This was announced at Aria Warehouse yesterday by the pro-chancellor and chairman of council of the university, Malam Adamu Fika. The Professor Kabiru Bala is a thoroughbred ABU scholar. He joined the university as a graduate assistant in 1987. After postgraduate studies in building and business administration, he completed his doctoral and in construction management in 2001. He also has been a visiting scholar of the University of Abete in Dundee. He also was the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration. He has also taught and supervised 15 doctoral and about 30 postgraduate students. So he's a thoroughbred academician, and it's believed that he will bring his wealth of experience to bear in leading the Ahmadu Bello University. Meanwhile, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has advised the federal government and the 6 southwest states to get together into dialogue over the security outfit named Amotekun. He called for dialogue between the governors of the southwest states and the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice for the purposes of reaching a harmony. He said that his security outfit has not threatened the foundation of the nation, and because the foundation has not put at stake. However, there are certain aspects of the Amotekun operation that need to be redeemed for effectiveness. Meanwhile, the governors of the North Central State, met with the Inspector General of Police and traditional rulers over security issues and held a meeting in Lafia. The host governor, Abdullahi Sule, said the meeting will provide an opportunity for all to speak and sensitize one another about security challenges and its effectiveness in the North Central Zone as well as the Federal Capital Territory. The Inspector General of Police says this is the fourth zonal such security meeting that is being contemplated across the nation. Another interesting story is the issue of the Lassa fever, and it has claimed the lives of 2 doctors in Kano, and presently 2 other hospital staff are in serious and intensive care. It was reported that the doctors had actually performed a cesarean section on a lady who was rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, after the operation, the lady and the baby all died. But prior to the lady being brought to the hospital, in her home, her husband had died, her sister had died, her mother who lives with them also had died, and another neighbor had died. She was the only one that apparently had survived what was suspected to be Lassa fever. But apparently, it was not identified, and they performed cesarean operation on her, and most of the personnel, hospital personnel, who were involved in it, 2 doctors, unfortunately, we have lost them. Yes. 1 doctor is in a critical condition, and another nurse is also in critical condition. So the word should go round. Health personnel should not take risk. The basic precautionary measure is you wear gloves, not even 1, not 2, sometimes 3 in such instances before you touch patients. Patients also are advised not to be shy away from insisting that doctors must wear gloves before they attend to them in the hospital. It's all part of the measures to check the spread of the
from what we are seeing now, in terms of the numbers, this year looks like a potentially horrific one with regard to the incidence of Lassa fever and indeed the fatalities arising therefrom. And what has been done it's not pretty clear yet. I mean, apart from stories that you keep reading in the papers, what is it that the various agencies of government at federal, state, and local government levels are doing, in terms of sensitizing people and taking proactive measures? I mean, the coronavirus that broke out in Wuhan province in China, it has led to all kinds of emergency measures. And how many persons have died from that particular incident? And our own port officials are also now kicking in precautionary measures, particularly from travelers. How many persons have died? And yet, right under our nose, 2 medical doctors have passed on in Kano, and then 2020, 292 cases already reported, and fatality confirmed cases 64, and deaths 21. And this figure is likely to rise because this is just January. Yes. So what is being done? What are those measures that are being done? I don't think that I haven't seen. I may be wrong, Bayo and Jumain. Do we, as a country, and therefore as government or as agencies, undertake rat elimination processes?
No, I don't think so. Has it ever happened?
Because they keep telling you it is bush rat that will bring this, it is a rat with multiple mammary glands and so on and so forth. But it is when you are in the bush that you encounter those ones. The other ones will come near your premises, assuming that the surroundings are not properly kept. Now, if the surroundings are not properly kept, what are the deratting measures that are being taken, whether in rural areas or in urban areas or crowded communities? That no such thing is taking place.
Nothing. And this you're talking about the port clearance and all that. Some of them come in these containers. The quite large ones come in containers that are coming from other countries to Nigeria.
That's another danger. Some of these rats are imported abroad. They come with containers. In fact, they are so bold that sometimes they stand and stare people in the face. Yes. And also, there is this habit in some parts of the country that rat itself is a source of meat. That itself is a potential danger for challenges when Lassa fever breaks. But the basic challenge is that of sanitation. If we endeavor to keep our environments clean, then a lot of it will have been addressed. However, on the side of the national health emergencies, there has been some tremendous improvement. I think on NTA yesterday, the head of the Nigeria's disease control pointed out the initiative at Owo, where facilities are now available for which Lassa fever can be tested and quickly identified. And several such centers are across the country. Several years back, everything had to be taken to one special center only that was available only in Edo State. But now there are several centers where it can be tested and diagnosed. But the challenge has been at the level of sanitation. Yes.
Okay, let's take a look very quickly at Blueprint. Some of the stories we have discussed are also there on the front page, Amotekun, Lassa fever, and all that. So we'll just go right to the foot of the front page of the Blueprint newspaper, right at the foot of the front page.
Yes.
Autumn cries out over influx of herdsmen into Benue. That's page 8. Foreign countries sabotaging EFCC efforts. It's according to Margot. That is on page 9. Army IMN clash. CSO urges court to stop Shiites publishing book. Page 31. And $1.1 billion Malabo scam. Service of charge. Stores Adoke's arraignment. Boko Haram. NGF condemns killing of camp chair.
There's this story that Jumai read about two persons that were mobbed in Uyo.
Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, four.
There were four robbers. A pregnant woman had been dropped by a motorcyclist. Then the four of them accosted her. The motorcyclist had her alarm and returned. And in the process, the motorcyclist raised alarm and two of the four persons were apprehended. Two ran away. Unfortunately, the two of them were mobbed. However, in Jahi, in Katampe, in Abuja, FCT, another person suspected to be a one-chance robber was also arrested. The mob were about to set him ablaze when the rapid response of the FCT quickly arrived there. The mob was so uncontrollable that the suspect and police officers were injured. In fact, the vehicle of the police were also damaged considerably. Later on, the suspect and the police officer were taken to the hospital. The danger here is mob action. We need to be very sensitive about mob action. Yes, these criminals, crime everywhere has reached the tempo that people are easily incensed. But then we need to contain ourselves to make sure that suspects are brought to book through the legal process rather than us taking laws into our hand. Say, Jumaye and Kinsey, she will know say Nigerian was like Okada. Mama put, don't enter Oxford English Dictionary.
Yes, I saw.
Yes.
I saw some words that were,
28 Nigerian words have found place in the latest edition of the Oxford English Dictionary. The words
so if you speak Pidgin with no problem.
So Nigeria...
I mean, we raised some of this yesterday when we were having the JAMB registrar and others were discussing JAMB reforms and technology, and how some Nigerian words, have now found their way into as some of them you have indicated, Okada, Tokumbo,
Okada, Bukateria,
Danfo, K-leg,
Chop,
K-leg,
Mama put,
eat money,
Bukateria.
It's to eat money and so on and so forth.
Okay, as we go, let's take the editorial now. We're talking about restoring order to chaotic Libya.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read just a little because time is running out. The lingering crisis in Libya has reached a critical stage where responsible members of the international community can no longer afford to stand by and watch with indifference. Needless to say, all the global leaders should feel obliged to step in and arrest what is becoming an inexorable drift into anarchy for the sake of humanity and the prevention of a colossal humanitarian tragedy.
Yes,
quite a sad outlook there.
Libya is a sad attitude development. And if you recall, the administration of Muammar Gaddafi was literally overthrown by a Western world championed by the United States. This came from internal insurrection that was suspected to have been inspired by the CIA. Eventually, we now have chaos there, and therefore it has become imperative for them to find a solution to it. Turkey has come out boldly to lead the initiative, and it is also raising concern. This is because of the interest of oil in Libya. But the challenge is that has become the nexus of crisis on the the Horn of Africa.
And it's spreading to other parts of the continent itself.
Mediterranean coast of North Africa.
Okay, thank you so much, Bayo.
Thank you.
Coming. Good morning, Nigeria. It's been a pleasure having you as always. We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll be discussing NIMET 2020 seasonal rainfall prediction. Don't go away.
Perfect family may be under threat by germs. Germs can cause infectious diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, and flu. These infectious diseases are amongst the biggest killers of adults and children. In Nigeria, tens of thousands of children under the age of 5 have died due to diarrhea caused by germs. These illness-causing germs are everywhere. Dirty surfaces, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes, in unclean bathing water. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 capful. For surface cleaning, for first aid, for your laundry, in your bathing water, and to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Introducing Dettol with aloe vera. Soothing aloe vera with the power of Dettol, which is soft on skin and hard on germs. Be Dettol Sure.
Nigeria is our country, and it's the only country we have. Irrespective of religion, tribe, the heroes of our past did their best to take Nigeria to where it is today. It will be unfortunate, I repeat, unfortunate, absolutely, if we don't keep Nigeria intact. We must put our differences behind. We must let everybody know that human beings cannot live together without some differences. But at the end of the day, our country is Nigerian. It must always come first.
Get ready for the Unity Challenge reality TV show. Coming soon.
Thanks for rejoining us. Now, Oyeyemi Ajayi has put together this background report to set the stage for our discussion this morning.
It is that period of the year again when people whose businesses and means of livelihood depend on rains listen attentively to the country's weather forecast agency, which often looks into its crystal ball to foresee and predict when, where, and how the rainy season will be. This annual ritual attracts little attention in the past, but it has become a moment many participate because of the importance it plays in many aspects of life. NIMET has in recent predicted almost accurately the seasonal rainfall, which makes many to now pay more attention. Farmers who in the past were the main target not only eagerly waited for these predictions, but also make anticipatory preparations due to the fact that most of them engage only in wet season farming. 2019 was referred to as an El Nino year in Nigeria, known to be climate pattern that occurs when sea surface temperatures in the tropical Pacific Ocean rise above the normal levels for an extended period of time. Rainfall of varying magnitudes were experienced in most parts of the country, with many people still counting their losses due to flooding. Now, NIMET has predicted the 2020 seasonal rainfall, concluding that the country will experience a near normal to above normal rainfall, with the expectation that areas that experienced flooding last year may experience it again at the peak of the season. Farmers are cautioned against early planting in order to avoid losses, as a dry spell ranging between 2 and 3 weeks are expected at the onset of the season. NIMET prediction is also according the farmers opportunity to know the kind of seeds to plant, having been told the length of growing season in all parts of the country. With a total rainfall amount ranging between 400 millimeters in the north and about 3,000 millimeters in the south, the rainfall experts believe is good enough to grow a variety of crops and record bumper harvest. Those in the construction industry, like their counterparts in the transport, tourism, sports, and small businesses, are all set to review their plans in accordance with the prediction. Then, what are expected of all? What are the challenges to be faced as a result of the predictions? Who should do what and when? Guest on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be providing access to these and more shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Oyemi Ajayi, for that background. Here with us in the studios to discuss those issues in further detail, we'd like to welcome Professor Abubakar Mashi. He is the Director General, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET. Prof, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you. Happy to be
Also here with us in the studios is Engineer Mustapha Mehaja. He is Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Engineer Mehaja, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
And it's my pleasure to welcome Abbas Idris, the Director General of Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Also joining us in the studio is Alhaji Kabir Ibrahim, President of All Farmers Association of Nigeria. You're welcome to Good Morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. Let's begin with the Director General of NIMET, that's Professor Sani Abubakar Mashi. Run us through the major highlights of the seasonal rainfall prediction for year 2020.
Okay, thank you very much. We have had some predictions concerning some key weather variables in the country, how they are likely going to be within the 2021 year. The first major observation we made is on the commencement of the rain. We have over the years, we have noticed cases of a false start of rainy season. When we say false start, that is when you start noticing rain, but whether those rains that you have started receiving are effective enough as to allow farmers to start planting. This year, the incidences of false start of rain are going to be very high, and because of the rapid changes that have taken place over the global atmospheric circulation system. So meaning that there are likely cases of areas witnessing rain starting earlier than they have been witnessing. But this false starts, and we have particularly advised that farmers should take note of that. They are not the effective rain, because the commencement of the rain, which is the second major prediction we have made, will not be until even in the coastal areas. The effective commencement of the rain will not start until towards the end of February. And while in the north, it will not start until towards the first week of June. So, which means that planting, as usual, is normally it is going to be delayed. So the advice we have given accordingly is that farmers should be careful so as to avoid planting when they start noticing the false rain. That is the false start of the rain. And then the other thing we have noticed is that there have been some concerning the cessation, that is the ending of the rain. Normally, the rains have been ceasing early there because of the distortion in the climate. But however, we have noticed that while in a number of places it will cease, normally it will cease early, but there are some places that will witness longer than the normal, meaning that there will be a little delay in the cessation of the rain, which will be fairly good for the farmers there. But generally, rains in the northern part of the country will cease as early as 3rd week of September. When you consider that rains are starting in June, season in September, which means farmers eventually have about just 120 or even less number of days for them to plant, which means farmers should have to be careful in what they are planning. We have also predicted that the rain amount will be normal, and in some places a little bit greater than the normal. So which means the implication of it, when you receive abnormal rain, even when you receive normal rainfall, we are having cases of flooding. Because what is happening, we are receiving high amount of rain within shorter period of time. July, August in particular, very high amount of rain. More than half of the rain you are supposed to receive within the rainy season, you receive it within short period of time, and which is more than what the ground can absorb. The implication of this, it means there will be too much water on the ground. So which means incidences of flooding have been frequent in the event. Places like Yobe, places like Sokoto, where witnessing flooding, people start wondering what is actually happening. So this year we are expecting even cases of some above normal receipt of rainfall in some stations, which means it's going to be a problem. Another most important observation we have made is the issue of dry spell. Dry spell means when planting has started, suddenly rain will cease, especially toward the end of July and end of June and in July. For some places 10 days, for some places up to 21 days, which means crops have started growing, then suddenly the water will disappear for 10 days. Even farmers will tell you that when it fails to rain, even for 4 or 5 days, their crops suffer. So when it fails to rain for this number of days, it means the performance of the crops will definitely be affected. So at times, dry spells are problems that you don't always feel the impact. It is only the farmer. A farmer is expecting to harvest 10 bags, but because the crops are suffered in the growth process, he may end up harvesting 8. So unless you ask the farmer, you may not notice. It's a silent problem.
If I might come,
yeah,
there must have been a lot of processes involved in getting to this prediction.
Yeah.
So what are the processes? Are you looking back at 2019 rainfall and all the emergency we had? How did you come to this prediction?
Actually, the world of science now has progressed tremendously. The wind masses, because it is the wind system that is causing the weather condition. The wind masses, you can easily predict their rate of movement and their rate of performance over the Earth's surface using satellite and related technologies. So it is not always difficult for you to be able to predict what is likely going to happen at a certain place, when is it likely going to happen, and what is likely going to be the impact. So this is what we have been using. And modeling, the world of modeling has also reached so advanced stage that by the time you put a number of components, what the crop you require, what the soil can take, how much rain you are expecting, you will be able to say whether there is going to be a problem or whether there is not going to be a problem. It's really not really problematic.
It's not rocket science.
It's not a rocket science. Yes,
but it is satellite science.
Yeah, it's satellite, not rocket science.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much, DJ Namet. Of course, you are still here, so we'll come back to you. But let's bring in one of your end users, in this case, architect Kabir Ibrahim, who is the president of All Farmers Association of Nigeria. What's your reaction to the seasonal rainfall prediction for this year?
Well, there are two things. One, it gives me hope, and all the farmers will simply abide by the advice. Two, there are certain areas where I should be careful, that I should not imagine that because I see flush rains, I will start going to my farm. Two, I should anticipate that there will be some spells of lack of rain, and that would make my crop dry up and my yield completely affected by it. Therefore, the advent of this prediction is a very welcome development to Nigerian farmers. It may not be rocket science, as you say, but to the farmer, it's rocket science. Because hitherto, we never had any information. We just go, in some occasions, we imagine that the rains will come in this month, and we start preparations and planting. But now, we are informed. So what we do is informed. Therefore, the good science is applying to help us to upscale our production. And then we welcome it. We are very happy that you are doing this good job.
Okay, thank you so much, Alhaji Kabir Ibrahim, President of Farmers Association. We'll get back to you on as the program progresses. I'm coming now to Nema. The prediction is out there. How prepared are you to handle likely outcomes that always happens year in, year out? Are you prepared for it?
Well, being the beneficiary of this wonderful prediction, preparations and planning are key factors in any successful project, program, or any activity. We commenced our planning aspect since October, November last year, because we are familiar with the situations. With SRP, will now commence our coordination role as far as disaster management is concerned. Technical meeting will be held with all stakeholders, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, because whenever there is flood, there is health consequences, disease and other related issues. Doing that will allow us to jointly come up with a document, disaster management implication and socio-economic consequences of flooding if it happens. It will be a document that guides us on step-by-step approach to really activate the preparedness aspect we have been doing. Then thereafter, all the stakeholders' preparedness will be reviewed to ensure that they are really prepared before any possible flood that may come as a result of the rainfall. Then we have a conventional approach whereby people are sensitized, we make them aware of the consequences of whatever, because one important aspect of the prediction is areas that will be affected were made. But we have been talking to NIMET to give us micro locations like towns, villages, local governments, but they always give them at the local government level, and usually some of the local government are so vast. When we have micro location of those areas, preparation will be more effective, and more accurate. Sensitization is a conventional way through jingles, engagement of all radio media stations and other things to enlighten people. But this year we developed a non-conventional way whereby the pyramids of environment will drive a process whereby the state governments will be fully engaged on the waste management issues, because waste management is one of the problems. During a normal rain, as predicted, was a little excess, but if we have proper drainages, we have proper waste management system, we may not even have any flood. Because of these constraints, the floods comes even when they are not supposed to come. So we have an intervention now where pyramids of environment will drive the process.
Okay, thanks a lot. Well, let's bring in also the DG in charge of the FCT Emergency Management Agency, Abbas Idris. Look, last year was quite some disaster in terms of consequences of adverse weather conditions. In the FCT here, we had the unfortunate incident of a director who was swept away, and there were all kinds of reports of flooding, not just again in the FCT, but in most parts of the country. And I recall that I think we had about 2 or 3 programs on flooding. Mehaja, you were here with us. The Director General, Idris, were also here. The Director General of the Hydrological Services Agency was here. DG NIMET was also here. But despite all the precautions, all the warnings, flood, wreaked the kind of havoc that we probably hadn't seen until probably last time being 2012, which was the result of the release of water from Cameroon. What is it that you are looking at this year against the background of the experiences last year?
Well, thank you very much. Let me start by thanking NIMET and the DG for the early release of this prediction. And it is really the earliest so far in these years that has passed. Both meteorological and hydrological predictions, they are key to our preparedness in terms of how we are going to tackle the environment, the environmental factors. Either of the coin, we are affected, and we have to be proactive. If there is normal rainfall, there could be, like the DG said, there could be flooding also, which is going to turn to be a disaster. And when there is shortage of the rain as well, that will affect food security and other factors. So we are all affected. We have to be up and doing. But the first thing first is to start the preparedness for now. Now that the NIMET has given us the rainfall prediction, we have to wait for the flood outlook from NISA. By the time we have the flood outlook, we will be able to really map out our strategies. At the moment, we are reflecting back on what has happened last year. We have to take stock of those things, because what happened in the FCT has to do with urbanization. And this development of infrastructure development is still going on. So there is little place where water can be absorbed by the earth. So therefore, it's going to be a serious problem, and we are working hand in hand with all the stakeholders. Like what my senior colleague DG Nema said, we have to hold the stakeholders, and we have to get all the sectors together and analyze this implication. And then we review our response plans to be able to really tackle the situation head on. That is what we are really planning to.
Part of what we saw last year, I mean, following the unfortunate incidents that arose from the flooding, the FCT started pulling down houses that were said to have been constructed on waterways. There were some protests. Now, what is the situation with regard to that? Because it's a dry spell, everybody is moving around, the earth is dry now. When the waters come, another challenge. What is it that has occurred in terms of your interagency collaboration to be sure that those properties, whether they are fences or full houses that are on the waterways, don't continue to remain on those lines?
Well, as at yesterday, we had a stakeholders meeting and we discussed purely on that aspect. This morning, there is a team that is going to revisit those areas. The notice is still standing. And the Honorable Minister of the FCT has given his orders that anybody who builds on the waterways or on green areas, blocking the waterways, definitely such building will be brought down. And the issue of Lokogoma is being looked at globally, holistically, so that at least it will be addressed, because the issue of Lokogoma is different from any other issue. It is an act of violation. So therefore, it's going to be looked out both in this way, the developers and also the side of government, so that it will be addressed before the rainy season.
The rainy season has sort of started. I think Lagos has witnessed the first rain, and the rainy season in Abuja. Isn't it taking too long to make sure that these policies are enforced? In areas like Kokogoma, the rains will come very soon.
So like I'm just giving you an update that yesterday we had a meeting. We have been having series of interactions, and all the stakeholders are on their toes because there is a marching order from the Honorable Minister. And I'm assuring you, before the rain comes to Abuja, that issue will be addressed.
Okay, NIMET DG, Professor Marshi, who are your clients for your report? I'm asking this question advisedly because we can speak at the national level, and as the president of the All Farmers Association has said, look, taking this information down to the end users, namely farmers, can often be a challenge. So who are your end users or your clients who have shown enthusiasm with regard to your report for this year?
Thank you very much. Certainly farmers. But like you know, weather affects everybody. You as a journalist, you are affected because if you are supposed to come to the studio at 6 a.m. and suddenly it starts raining heavily and everywhere is flooded right at 4 a.m., it means you will be finding it difficult to come to the studio. So our client, everybody is our client in Nigeria. But we are particularly concerned with the farmers because everything boils down to what happens on the land, and they are the major stakeholders as far as utilization of information at the level of the land is concerned. Part of the challenge we are always facing is the issue of downscaling of our prediction to the lowest level. We are a federal agency. We are funded by the federal government. We made the predictions at the national level. We were predicting at the state level, and our expectation, the state should collaborate with the agency so that we go ahead and collaborate with the state and downscale it at the level of the state and the local government, district, and even at the farm level. We have been facing challenge in this regard because the state governments have really not been coming up. So really, and we are, there is practically separation of power. This is a challenge even NEMA is facing. You will discover that disaster has occurred. The assessments that are supposed to be done at the lowest level, they are waiting for NEMA to go and carry out. So part of the thing we are doing, trying this year is, last year I appeared before the Governors Forum and we pleaded with them. We are not asking any state to give NIMET 1 naira. What we want the state governments to collaborate with NIMET so that we will now go and downscale to the level of districts, a level of communities, and even the level of farming household. That was the DG NEMA is saying, so that the basic information that is required, what is likely going to happen on the farmland of Malam Shehu, we will be able to give the information so that Malam Shehu can become prepared, rather than for us to be talking bogusly and say in this local government, this type of problem is anticipated. So this is the way we are going to the going.
Well, Juma, I mean, I asked that question advisedly because, I mean, it's a frequent experience whenever we are discussing this issue. We'll come back again to NEMA. I mean, NEMA, I'm sure you had a lot of serious headache last year, if not migraine, arising from the lack of, the lack of response, as it were, from a number of SEMAs until, you know, they were literally drowned in their various communities. Because if this is for the benefit of farmers, where are the state ministries of agriculture to take this information from you and now begin to say, all right, we're going to run with this and then begin to deal with our clients, all farmers president?
The DG has said it all. There must be synergy in all strata of government to be able to enforce this. Because you are playing with something that is very, very fundamental to the way we live and how we live. The food production in a country is a sine qua non of the existence of that country. And then for Nigeria, I believe, if we say we are even the giant of Africa, even before the free trade area, the continental trade area, we have been responsible for feeding some of our neighbors. So if situations are bad in this country, all of Africa will suffer for it. And then, of course, there is even the global food security. Nigeria is supposed to play a very important role in the contribution of Africa to the world food security. What is happening now, early rains, late session and all that, is a product of climate change. And this is a risk factor in food security. So every state, every local government, every hamlet, every ward should take this serious. And there is information superhighway. We should be able to be heard, to be listened to, and we should be able to disseminate this information as soon as it is given. Today, what we are doing as AFAN is we have discussion platforms. The event that occurred recently, where the NIMET gave out this information, is cascading everywhere on our platforms. Our farmers have this information. But as I said, there are some interventions that probably are much, much more than the farmers can handle when they happen. So his agency, NEMA, will be best assisted by the other arms of government, even at the local government level, to be able to effectively impact on whatever happens. So to this extent, we will call on all states and all local governments and everybody, every stakeholder, every Nigerian to wake up. This is a clarion call for there to be action to mitigate whatever effects will come after flooding or late rains or early rains or too much rains or things like that.
Okay, thank you so much. We're coming now to NEMA. NEMA. Climate change is a contributory factor to what is happening in Nigeria. It's a global thing, actually. And NEMA alone cannot handle the emergencies that crops up when we have flooding across the country. What is the level of synergy between you and SEMA, that's the State Emergency Management Agencies, right now? What are you doing to ensure that in places you cannot reach, SEMA will be able to handle it before you arrive on the scene?
Before I answer those questions, I have been making, or rather clarifying, the issue of structure. It is quite, it's a fact that we have a very robust structure established by law. The NEMA Act specifically did not only recognize the establishment of the structure of NEMA, but it also recognized the establishment of the State Emergency Management Agency, which form an integral part of our structure. In fact, the Governing Council, which is the larger decision-making body of our activities, comprises Minister of Aviation, Minister of Transport, Minister of Works, Minister of Water Resources, Minister of Interior, to tell you that it's coordination role given to the agency. So the structure is such that we have NEMA at affects, we have SEMAS in the middle, we have local emergency management committees at the local government. I have been saying it, and I will repeat it again, that we have a weak link at the state and local government level. They don't have the capacity, they are not properly funded. If they have the capacity, the disasters are categorized into the minor, the major, and catastrophic disasters. They are supposed to handle at the state and the local government the major disasters and the minor disasters. It's only when it is overwhelming they could not cope that NEMA are supposed to now respond. Peril apparatus, peril institutions will now be deployed under presidential directives to now support the states or the states if it is a compound state. But today, because of the weakling, we often find ourselves going into the remotest area of unknown state trying to respond, which may often than not were overstretched. So this is the problem. We have been carrying out a lot of campaign at various levels, at the level of National Economic Council, to make the governors take off their responsibility. The president, if I recall, about 2 months ago, made a statement that the state should take part of this responsibility. So this is going on, and once they do it, I believe in the nearest future, most of the problem will go. Like I was mentioning, that we are now taking a further approach. The normal way we intervene is in sensitization, call stakeholders, enlighten them. This year, what we resolve to do, name and other stakeholders the same as we go to the villages where NIMED predicted that it will be flooded. We enlighten the people using mobile telecine and other apparatus or instruments to ensure that the people are properly enlightened. We are dealing with human beings. When you talk to them, they will understand. We may have some resistance, but when we take it at a larger and very more robust way, they will understand. So this is what we are trying to do.
So have you been
now.
doing that?
This is the plan this year. We have a work plan, a very robust work plan that has never been done in the history of NEMA. This year, we have a work plan that will invigorate in our activity to ensure that we reduce these disaster consequences.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Engineer Mehaja. Let's bring in again FCT. The fairly obvious point is that sometimes our sanitation habits contribute to flooding, particularly in urban areas, on account of improper solid waste management. And some persons would often advocate that it is not in the rainy season, when you already have floods causing disaster, that you begin to desilt your drains. But you look around now, we're all feeling smug and happy. You know, the Hamatan breeze will blow you. We're all happy. So Mehaja, you're also enjoying the weather condition now. So, but then the rains will come and they say, oh, go to Goma, everywhere is flooded, or go to Taco Market, the place is flooded.
And then he will lose sleep.
Yes, he will lose sleep, and Idris will also lose sleep. What we are saying here affects all states of the Federation. Yeah. When are we going to see action being taken when disaster is not at hand? In other words, what is wrong now, considering the plastic pollution we also have? We'll say, look, okay, we're going to mobilize several gangs and begin to desilt our drains, clear all the drains, so that when the rains come, whether the normal or abnormal or catastrophic, well, the catastrophic is when disaster occurs, whether normal or abnormal, the impact is minimized.
Yes, actually we have come that far in the FCT. We'll be doing that right now. All the stakeholders are on their toes. The Abuja Environmental Protection Agency are doing their best to clear all the waste everywhere. And the satellite towns development department, who are responsible for the satellite towns, also doing their best. And the contract has just been awarded to those contractors for cleaning up and packing up those refuse. And also, I remember the director, FMM was here too, one time, who is responsible for desilting all drainages, because from the incident of last rainy season, there was a standing directives that you don't have to wait until the rainy season before you can seal the drainages. And some of those blockages can be identified right now before the rainy season. And both the Department of Maintenance and Facility Maintenance with the FCDA are working hand in hand to ensure that also bringing the construction firms, because most of the blockages are done by the construction firms. Sometimes they avert the water from their side. So all these have been handled. We sat down and directed that all this should be done quickly. And with the SRP now, we are also going to bring the construction firms into our on board to ensure that this is the right time, to know the right time to start construction and to know the right time to stop their work. Because by the time they divert any water, it is going to affect the community. And we also agree that we are going to have all-inclusive sensitization. Everybody is going to be involved because we have to create community resilience among the communities in the LPT. So therefore, we have to bring them together. We have been carrying out sensitization door to door and palace to palace. We carry our campaigns for the last 3 years. We have been going around. We show them local videos. What happened at Lokogoma will be shown to people at Delhi so that they know. If they go there, we don't show foreign films. They will see, they know what is happening. So that if they want to clarify, they will go and clarify. And that has been yielding a result to us. They ask, is it that place? And while we say, leave this place, and it happens somebody died there, we will also show. And they will know that, they know the person that died there. So we are doing practical enlightenment campaigns, and they are really getting used to it. And that has reduced in the areas, local government, the area council. It was only the urbanization of FCT, the city, last year that was very, very bad. But in the other cities, in the other towns, satellite towns, it has reduced drastically.
So when you're talking about sensitization, do you go further into these people who sell land to innocent people and who build on waterways? What happens if somebody builds on a waterway and his house is demolished? What happens to that person? Look, what kind of synergy do you have with the local government chairman and the traditional rulers that sell these lands to these people?
Not only selling land, we have even said, even when you are renting an apartment, you should ask, what is the nature of that place for you? Because you can enter today and tomorrow there will be flooding in that area. So find out, why was the house vacant before you occupy the house? So the lands, we always, and we carry the campaign that any cheapest land in the FCT is either flood plain or land that is not owned by the public, by somebody is crudely trying to sell it.
And making
money for it. So you have to find out and dig. You have to go and cross-check. There are different agencies involved that you can get this thing clarified. If it is in the locality, you get the area, controllers of development control, Abuja Environmental Protection Agency, and so on and so forth. Find out what is the problem of this area before you can buy a land or you even rent a house. So that is why I'm saying it's all inclusive. We are bringing everybody. The communities must be involved in this enlightenment. They should know what is their right. They should know what they should do before they can get anything in the FCT.
I was just chuckling because it used to be said, many years ago in Lagos that if you were going to look for an apartment to rent, don't do so in the rainy season. Sorry, do so in the rainy season, not in the dry season. Because during the dry season, the landlord would have painted the water marks where the flood water was. But if you go during the rainy season, you will see where the flood. Go in the peak of the rainy season, you will see whether your property will be floating in the water,
or the roof is leaking,
otherwise, whether the roof is leaking, or otherwise. That's very sound advice that Idris has given. I'm still also caveat emptor, buyer beware, whatever you want to get into. But let's bring in again DG Naimet, Professor Marshi. Apart from aviation, which is fairly obvious, and agriculture, which is most important in terms of our food security and utilization of your prediction. We have seen in terms of public service implication that, from time to time you get to hear, we couldn't continue with the construction of XYZ road because the rains are here, the dry season was very short. Again, are these persons amongst your clients? I'm talking now, say, about the ministries of works throughout the federation, federal, state, and if local governments, if they have their own works departments functioning. Have they come to you, or are you passing this information to them so that they know where to speed up work, before the rains come, so that we don't get into the typical excuse, the rains have obstructed us, so we can't continue with our earthworks?
Thank you very much. You see, when you look at the act establishing our agency, that is the NIMET Act 2003, it clearly spells out the areas where we are supposed to be providing advisory services. It's all encompassing. There are no single area that is left out. We are only in aviation for convenience purpose because the bulk of our funding is coming from the proceeds from collections in the aviation sector. But we are providing advisory services to all the sectors. Especially due to recent events, the climate that has been changing, a lot of inconveniences have been witnessed by operators in the various sectors. So they are being forced out of necessity to now be coming to us, asking for advices, asking for information, and then asking for certain products that will help them in what they are doing. From time to time, for instance, road constructions, they come and ask us for a piece of information that will enable them to take certain decisions. Like, look, the case of local Goma that we have been emphasizing, the problem stemmed from the fact that FCT, when they were designing the city, survey was conducted, environmental survey was conducted in 1977. And they were able to measure the environmental condition of the FCT, vegetation, water resources, and so on in 1977. Based on it, they designed FCT. They produced the master plan, I think, in 1979. Since that time, there has not been another survey that has been carried out in order to revise. The climate of the FCT has tremendously changed between 1977 to now. If you look at local Goma, the volume of water that is supposed to pass in that area, they are supposed to provide a very big bridge. It's actually a small culvert. Probably the stream that feed into that particular area, maybe when they measured in 1977, the volume of water it was conveying was narrow. But now, with development, with climate changing, the volume has increased. And yet the culvert is very, very narrow. So it's like there is a mismatch between the road development, the urban development happening around local Goma, and the actual environmental condition within the FCT. So these are some of the things, the realities that the various sectors are witnessing.
DG NIMET, I mean, the aspect of the FCT that you have just introduced is an important one. But I want to go back to the end users of your information. Yes, it is there in the act that you provide advisory services to a broad range of potential clients, agric and so on and so forth. But we are talking about the practical reality. Do you get enthusiastic requests from ministries of works or housing or however so named to say that, fine, you have already released your prediction for 2020, please let's have the information. We want to have the information so as to guide our decision making in terms of how much deployment we need to make to get contractors to go to site, or even the construction companies. Do you get that kind of response?
Honestly, we don't get as much. In Nigeria, we believe in emergency. We believe in emergency. We tend to become active, we tend to become very much disturbed, actually, when the problems occur. The preparedness is actually not there. And this is one area that NEMA has been actually facing serious headache. The level of preparedness. Everybody, before you, whatever you do, you should actually be prepared for this. But many of us, we rather will want to wait and see. Maybe because of our faith in God, that probably it may not happen. That is actually the problem. These are one of the major headaches NEMA is actually facing. People know that before you take certain decision, you need to become well prepared. But they actually don't take those kind of decision. Look at the construction industry, for instance. We have been talking to them. Whenever they are conducting Abuja housing show, I always go there and talk. Please, whenever you are building, whenever you are designing buildings, you need to come. You need to come to us so that we give you advisory services, even the orientation of the building itself, because the wind system, the speed of the wind, so that at least we can guide you. The volume of rain that you are likely going to receive, which will now determine how you will even plan the surrounding. So they will hear, but you don't see them. Probably when they start witnessing the consequences, like what we are witnessing in local government, maybe they'll start coming. Look at what happened now in the EPAB estate. The whole estate was swallowed last year. The whole estate was swallowed. If you ask the developer of the estate, did you make use of information such as being provided by NIMET before you go into that? Definitely the answer will be no. These are the problems we are in now.
Until, I mean, sometimes, as you said, Prof said, and then to my other person said, our faith in God. Until people begin to take action, legal action, because that's a clear case of negligence. You know, did you undertake your due diligence before embarking on this construction work? And if there are consequences, and consequences in terms of damages, then you also face that. And I'm sure that our jurisprudence at some point will have to address that.
Yes, we indeed have. So still talking about the prediction, you know, you said you've been having enlightenment campaign, sensitization campaign. I'm coming to Alhaji Kabiru Ibrahim now. For our farmers, most of these farmers are in the rural areas. Most of them are uneducated. How deep have you gone in sensitizing them on this prediction?
Well, it is commonplace to say a person is ignorant or uneducated.
I didn't say ignorant.
No, okay. Okay. You know,
yes,
we are doing this interview in English.
Yes.
Nigeria, I think we speak English all over.
Yes.
But in Faskari, where I come from, the farmer speaks Hausa, and the leaders of the farmers there speak Hausa. They may speak English because they are leaders. So when they listen to Prof in English, they will tell their people in Hausa. So we have no handicap as far as this is concerned. To be very correct, and as an architect and farmer, the information that he is given is already in the public domain. Because once it comes out, I said we have information superhighway. It's all over. So, and it will be translated to all kinds of languages. Over 200 in Nigeria, right? People will understand what is going on. But what is very important is farming or agriculture should be done seriously. We must look at it as a business. So before you embark on farming or agriculture, you should do due diligence also. You should know whatever you are going to do, whatever crop you are going to develop or cultivate in a certain location will be the kind that will thrive and will not have these problems of flooding and all that, and then probably you get low yield and all that. The Nigerian has to really start thinking as a serious business person, even if it's a farmer, a contractor, a developer, or anything. But this will have to go down, and it affects everybody. You know, what we are doing today, I believe, is one of those things that we will sensitize people to come round to their senses. You know, that, look, before you do this, it is important that you listen to this, or you look at all this. As a designer, he probably unconsciously gives us information, so we don't have to go to NIMET. All the conditions, building orientations and all that are all in the public domain. I have a consulting firm. We always look at all these factors. I don't have to go to NIMET to get this information. Information is available, but we seek that information. The same thing for all farmers. But what we will do henceforth is, in a few years back, I think they used to invite us when they do this flag-offs. These days, I believe, probably because we have not been attending, probably because they are very busy, we don't get invited. But now that I have met him, I'll make it very clear to him that it is important that we populate his flag off. I mean, I can't just sit down as the president of farmers and only hear on the radio that they are doing this. And I expect that I will be able to help my farmers. I have to seek to partner with him to get this information.
I was just wondering, Architect Ibrahim, I mean, you've said that the information is out there in the public domain, but we are also aware of the state and quality of extension services in this country. Mm-hmm. So how do you reconcile this with the position that you're saying information is out there and the farmers will...
See, I believe in Nigeria we have less than 10,000 trained extension farmers. The president wrote a letter to compatriots and he said 50,000 of them will be trained. We are looking at the Ministry of Agriculture, probably with other MDAs, to come around to do that. But we are even going further. From NAFAN, that is the Nigerian Agricultural Foundation, we are talking with people with expertise in data capture and information dissemination to be able to see if there are windows where some of these people can also be trained. Because there is a serious dearth of extension work. In other countries, they even have what they call digital extension, digital green. As he said, you go with movies showing probably how sorghum will be best planted, and there is a person there explaining this. So what you do is you carry these videos or movies to the nooks and crannies of the country and show them, like they used to do in the 70s when I was in school. You know, we knew about Muhammad Ali and his boxing techniques even from a young age. They used to show us movies and all that. So we can do that. We can do that for agriculture. So I believe a lot of effort needs to be put to make sure that there is the appropriate extension service to farmers. There is a serious dearth of it. We're a country of about 70% of us being farmers, and we have less than 10,000 extension workers. It is a very, very serious disconnect. So a lot of effort has to be made to be sure that this is balanced. And we're happy that the president wrote to us that he's going to, or the government is going to train 50,000. We expect them to train 500,000.
Yeah, you know, Jumai, when Architect Kabir Ibrahim was talking about the movies that they were showing Cinemobile, in those days, it just
took you down memory lane.
Down memory lane. We used to see that, but it also raises a very pertinent issue, because we've had here sensitization, and even NIMET in terms of cascading information. Those things you used to see in those days, they were the handiwork of Ministry of Information, yes. Federal level and state level, as they were. I don't know the level of equipment now of the Federal Ministry of Information, for instance, or the state ministries of information, whether they have those. They used to use Land Rovers, very rugged vehicles to get through rugged terrain. But there is the pertinent issue here, where on account these days of multiplicity of media outlets, those Cinemobiles could still be useful. What is the level of, how much are we getting out of our silos? Because you can say you are sensitizing people, but I mean, with due respect to you, you're not an information management expert. You're not a public information management expert. What is the level of collaboration that we are getting? Because there are officers, I'm sure you have an ROIO, that's a resident information officer from Ministry of Information. Yes. But the capacity in the Ministry of Information and Radio House is enormous. The same thing you would find at the state level. How are we doing to get out of our silos and then embrace other agencies to say, look, this is what we want to do, help us ramp it up so we can achieve greater results? You first, Mehaja, and then Idris.
Well, actually, when it comes to the issue of sensitization and enlightenment, we rely solely on information experts, specifically government institutions like the NTA, the radio stations, and the print media in enlightening the people. I just explained the mobilization of these Land Rovers you are talking about. We want to go with clips showing them the danger of staying We want to deploy that this time around. It's part of our planning. That is that. But let me just chip in on the issue of his client, the NIMET clients. We narrow it to only agriculture or farmers. In reality, as coordinators of disaster management, we normally look at it from the security angle. It is threat to life and property, generally, threat to life and property. So all Nigerians are his clients. That is the truth of the matter. So the major user of the information, why the NIMET is domiciled in the Ministry of Aviation, is because it's the pilot. It's seasonal. The agricultural aspect of it is seasonal. The pilot every day require that, information every minute about. That is why it's domiciled worldwide under the Ministry of Aviation. So the issue of enlightenment, who rely solely on the media houses, NTA is our key player when it comes to it. We will soon approach NTA because we want to go all over. We want to use it this time as we have never used it before. So this is how we intend to approach. We will also use mobile phone application this year. Before the rain, really before June, we'll make sure that as much as possible Nigerians have, so that we can communicate and send information about the situation in their environment.
So you'll be having emergency numbers too?
Yes. The emergency number aspect is we are already working with NCC to take over all the emergency communication centers, being the emergency arm of government, the agency that really coordinate the activities, all emergencies. So the 122 will soon be activated all over the country. About 18 states are already in the air. All others will join soon.
No, we'll clarify this before Idris comes. Are you going to have new emergency numbers or what? So that when the numbers get too many, people can be confused. Just a few days ago, Engineer Mehaj, couple of days ago on Good Morning Nigeria, we had, it was on Tuesday, Jumai, we had the NNPC and LASEMA on account of these pipeline explosions in Lagos and the disasters arising. And they gave their own emergency numbers, including 767. That's for those who are in the Lagos area. But if you have too many different numbers, it might become a challenge to remember.
No, the absence of national emergency number culminated to the emergence of all this. By the time this is stabilized, all other emergency number will be banned.
Okay. All right. Idris?
Yes, thank you very much. On the public enlightenment, I think the major problem really is lack of synergy between the government agencies. Because like me as a disaster manager, I am not supposed to be all-rounder, but I have to coordinate the activities of all other stakeholders relevant to what I'm going to do in my own office. So therefore, in our own case, we employ the services of National Orientation Agency because they are all everywhere. Wherever you go to a remotest area, you will see a staff of National Orientation Agency. And then we also use the locals, those who are specialists. Some of them are even professional town criers. They can speak in their dialect, and we coin our jingles based on those information, the dialect they speak, so that you can easily give information to them. And then once you are able to speak somebody's language, you have already captured 70% of his trust. So that is the belief we have, and we are doing that, and it's paying us seriously. And collaboration with other stakeholders, I think, is key. Our own is just coordination. We have to bring all professionals together, and that is why NIMET, we rely on NIMET prediction. We rely on NISA hydrological flood outlook. We rely on everybody. The NIMET prediction has also affected the fire incident, where he is talking about dry spells.
That's right.
Definitely there is going to be fire. And the fire during the spell can affect the little that is even undergoing drought in the farmland. So we have to use all the agencies together to ensure that we study the report and then bring all the stakeholders together, refine our response plan, because that is key. If we don't refine our response plan in line with what they have predicted, then we are not going to do anything. If you had a response plan for last year that is not refined for this year, we are going to have a different climatic situation. So therefore, we have to do that with all the stakeholders.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll continue the discussion after this break. Don't go away.
My name is Giato Adeza Adams, the General Manager, Corporate and Strategic Communications, Nigerian Port Authority. As regards the land borders closure, available statistical data from APMT, which is one of our terminal operators that is involved in container handling terminal, has recorded an increase of 200 TEUs of cargoes into their terminal as a result of cargo diversion from the vessels originally meant for our neighboring countries. That shows you that the terminal operators is going to have an increase in revenue, which is accrued to the terminal, and at the same time, Nigerian Port Authority will equally benefit from the revenue increase. So that is the benefit we have derived from the border closure.
To dey disobey traffic law, they cause accidents. Me, I don't talk, say I no go dey do am again, because change begins with me.
Cross the other side of the road. I will no longer endanger my life crossing the express. Instead, I will use the bridge, because change begins with me.
Oga driver, stop this bus now, won't come down. I be one carry me pass where I dey go.
Make I dey stop anyhow for road, they cause traffic wahala and accidents. So I go dey stop for the right bus stop, because change begins with me.
Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back, and still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's bring in again Professor Mashi, DG NIMED. Well, how widespread is your organization in the country? In other words, what are your office locations? So that if state governments cannot come to you in Abuja, or construction companies or ministries of works or agriculture cannot come to you in Abuja, where can they possibly go to, which is probably nearest to them, so that will not become an excuse?
We are actually one of the most widely spread federal parastatal in Nigeria. In addition to state offices that we have everywhere, we have 6 zonal offices, and then we have synoptic stations. In total, our office, as we are talking today, we have 62 offices in Nigeria. Beside the state offices, which we have in 36 plus FCT, we have 6 zonal offices, and then we have a number of synoptic stations located in some critical areas of the country. So we are widely distributed. The fact of the matter here now is the state governments in particular that are supposed to be effectively utilizing our product and our services are really not helping matters. Because for them to utilize those products and services, it means they have to be organizing some activities within their states. To organize those activities, it means funds have to be spent. When you look at the budgets of states every year, try and, for instance, on emergency management, out of the state, find out who have budgeted for emergency management in 2020. I don't really know, probably a few states, but I think the DG NEMA is in a better position to tell us. So when they cannot budget for issues that are very sensitive, like emergency, how do you expect them to budget for things like dissemination of weather activity? These are our problems. So what we are now hoping for is to start having state governors that when they come with pragmatic programs of actions that will ensure effective utilization of these very vital information services for development purpose. Because when a state government, for instance, effectively utilize information on, like, say, planting. And advisory service we are given on the kind of seeds that are supposed to be planted. This year we are saying they should go for seeds, early maturity and drought tolerant. For instance, you don't allow you should not expect ordinary farmers to go to the market and start looking for this kind of varieties. Many of the farmers, who do apology to him, many of the local farmers, they don't even have the technical confidence to go and identify this kind of seeds. State government should come in, carry out seed multiplication process, for instance, make these seeds affordable so that the farmers can have access to them, maybe at a subsidized price, okay, so that they could be able to do so. When we are downscaling, state government make resources available within your state. What you mean by downscaling is bring all those activity areas and stakeholders within the state so that you come and look at the information so that we identify the areas in which the state are going to be affected, the communities are going to be affected, and the localities are going to be affected. This will require money. This is unfortunately what state governments are not willing to provide. So something really needs to be done in this regard at the state level.
Do you think these predictions should be, as a matter of urgency, be integrated into national planning?
Certainly, there are no alternative to that. It must be. It must be. In fact, this year, what we have even decided to do, we have decided to go ahead and translate it into local languages. We already have a site, we have a platform where you can easily go and access it. We'll translate it into the major languages, we'll print it and make it available. Although the other thing is, will the people be able to read it? This is where we expect the All Farmers Association and other kind of association to come, so that they will now encourage, stimulate their members so as to be able to actually read what we are providing to them and make very good use of them.
Well, thanks. I mean, that's printing. It's one aspect that you can use in information management. There are several others. You use theater, word of mouth, radio. We said it on Good Morning Nigeria sometime in the past. I mean, FRCN is all over the country. That's Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. There is no state in Nigeria today where you don't have at least 2 radio stations, public. And if you were to multiply that by the number of private radio stations, you can imagine the reach of those entities. That is to say that information that you can use for beneficial purposes such as agriculture or other uses. But in terms of disaster management, because disaster always will be with us, it raises a very important point that, okay, if we, I mean, the tendency is for us to picture in our head rainfall and then, you know, flooding which comes and then the disaster that arises therefore. But there are also dry spells. Such as this is Harmattan season that we are in now, and we are seeing the number of deaths arising from Lassa fever, for instance. But we have to be prepared for emergencies, which requires budgeting. From your interaction with the subnational entities, as Professor Mashi was pointing out, is there a sufficient orientation towards recognizing that this is an item that should be on our budget so that when disaster strikes, we are ready?
Well, first of all, I want us to look at it from the fact that some of the state governments see it from a different angle. Having said that, there could be more, but the only states that I know they have full funding, or rather reasonable funding, FCT and Lagos. In fact, Lagos funding of the LASEMA is near to perfect. Is the only standing state emergency management agency who, without even NEMA, they can survive a major disaster. So we only support them with our personnel, with our equipment. They have they are well-equipped state emergency management agency. Let me use this opportunity to chip in. You see, we have the structures. The issue of buildings, what is in the books is that the designers need to approach Ministry of Aviation or NIMED, Ministry of Aviation specifically, to collect hydrological maps and other instruments while they are doing design. That is in the books. That is how it's supposed to be done. So I don't expect them to come to NIMED and tell us. The moment you go to Ministry of Aviation, you cannot imagine the amount of information and data they have, since some of them since maybe 1918. They have them, I know, because I use them in designing some mega projects. Incidentally, I'm engineer, so this is how it's done. It's not that they approach NIMED. This is the structure on ground. So for the states, the truth of the matter, you could find SEMAs with only 2 personnel. The funding is not there at all. Only few states, I may not have to mention them. Majority of them don't have standing funding on disaster management. They call it some ecological issues, which really is restricted to only drainages and other things, culverts in the local government and other things. But in reality, when we are talking of funding the disaster management preparedness and mitigation, is not there in almost all the states.
All right, thank you very much. We have a number of tweets that have come in. We'll quickly go through them and then wrap up our conversation today. Mike Ayanko, it's good that NIMED's 2020 prediction has come out early enough. It's now the responsibility of relevant government agencies to be proactive in case of emergencies. Communities and individuals too must be responsive.
And Utolo Sunday tweets, these predictions are not quite unusual, but the issue of proper planning is always the problem. Nigeria and Nigerians are never proactive. If not, this would not have been the right time for preparation.
Now, I'm going over quickly to Omagbola Humbabs. It says the Southwest witnessed first rains in 2020, 10 days ago in Ekiti. A good sign for the farmers and succor to the incessant fire incidents that have recently engulfed some parts of the country. Hopefully, the rainy season will start in earnest. However, caution is key against heavy downpour. Well, listen once again to what NIMED said with regard to the onset, yes, and then false start. So what you have seen in Ekiti is probably a false start. A false start. That's it's not. There's no rainy season yet in Ekiti. Don't go and start planting, no. All right.
Okay. Law Alpha C tweets, what storms are doing across the globe, no thanks to heavy downpours and tells that will take these predictions very seriously. People living in flood-prone areas should be told what to do ahead of time.
Well, most of the other tweets are also, of course, responding to issues that have been discussed by our guests in terms of a response by the relevant agencies and relevant tiers of government. Olumoye Samuel is what I would take. It says, this is a good omen for our farmers, so we should make good use of the prediction. However, God has the ultimate prerogative of what will happen.
As always, yes. And he is word. That's the Twitter handle, actually. 2020 NIMED prediction is quite favorable, and the fact it came quite on time makes it possible for the government to make efficient plans regarding this. As they would say, make hay while the sun shines.
That's right. This is Akeju Olagbaju again. Say, for farmers, the data set will be very useful if it is converted to a calendar in each of the agro-climatic zones to guide them in the planting season.
Yes, on Ladmeji Maro 4 tweets, our leaders need to take proactive measure on NIMED's prediction. Flood-prone areas must be taken care of. The farmers become vulnerable.
Sani Michael Makoji, it says, what is the assurance that the NIMED 2020 prediction will be right? So that's to say that what might there be variations? Of course, it's a human attempt at predicting nature. So the DG NIMED will speak to that, whether there might be variations going forward and what could occasion that.
Yes, and Ibrahim Tudu tweets and he's talking about their synergy with NEMA, NOAA, and NIMED. You must go beyond seasonal rainfall prediction, ceremonial press releases. Farmers, communities, and other stakeholders, especially NGOs and CBOS, must be engaged in all year round. States and local government are most impacted, so the information should be there.
Now, this is a handle, Star General. Says, we hope that governments at all levels will take the prediction seriously and accept the offer of the DG NIMED for the downscale of the predictions to the lowest level possible.
And Mulima Idima to tweet, for improved agricultural production in the country, cascading new agricultural technologies by well-trained and motivated extension agents is very imperative.
All right, DG NIMED, what might change?
Well, our predictions from records, our predictions have been always over 95% reliable. before you could be able to assess the reliability of your prediction, feedback mechanisms are very essential. Because of the disconnect we have between us and the state governments, this is a key area of challenge we are facing. We experimented with Katsina State because Katsina State, they have established linkage with NIMET even before I became the chief executive of the agency. And based on that, in 2018 planting period, they carried out a random monitoring of the prediction at certain locations to see the reliability of the predictions of the agency, because there was downscaling in 2018 for Katsina. Katsina State government provided the funds for that to be done. And they came with a report during our 2019 to make confessions and said our prediction were indeed 99.999 something. So what we are trying to say, from information available to us, our predictions are right. The only thing for us to be proved wrong or how deviating they are from the reality, we need feedbacks to be coming from our various stakeholders so that we'll be able to enhance it.
Okay, Nema DG, on a final note, you're overwhelmed already. You're all over the place due to security, insurgency in some areas. How will you be able to manage this fully when the flood comes, in case it does?
Well, one thing I need to say, it is always said that governments need political will. Here we are today with a government that has the political will. We have issues regarding the determination or commitment of the general populace as regard to the desired support. Government does not cannot do everything itself. So these are some of the challenges. Structurally, I always say, policy-wise, we have everything in place, but they were never used. With this government, we are motivated, given instructions to ensure that things goes well, and we took off, we dust off all the policies, we make use of them. It made our activities less challenging because we have the tools.
Okay.
It back off with fund. Okay. At any point in time, we approach Mr. President, we have a problem. There was incident under 24 hours, we got our response. So we have the political will, and I believe we are prepared, we are ready to move on. We have the plans on ground, and we believe we could.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mustafa Mehaja, the Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you so much for coming. The Director General, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, Professor Sani Abubakar Mashi. Thank you so much for coming.
Very much.
And Abbas Idris, the Director General, FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And Alhaji Kabir Ibrahim is actually an architect, President, All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Sports update is next.